Another issue that was raised by women journalists were intimidation, verbal attacks from editors regarding their colleagues who were women. And the third situation was also, although on a smaller extent, sexual harassment. Recently, I have concluded, in 2022 and January 2023, another survey with journalists for Council of Europe project, and it was about safety of journalists in Albania, and some of the women journalists that I have interviewed for this report have told me that because they are women, they are easily attacked online, attacked online because of their appearance, and on some cases, in at least 2 cases, they have been threatened with life or sexual harassment and sexual abuse and rape by anonymous person in internet because they are women. They should report to their human resources department. So this is the mechanism that it is in place when you encounter sexual harassment in the workplace. You should first report it to your company, and then you should go, of course, to the police and then to the court. But until now, media environment is not regulated within this standard structure, let's say. We can mention that only recently media companies have established proper human resources departments, but these issues are not discussed into the, let's say, work culture of the companies, not only in media companies, but in other companies as well. So business environment in Albania is not yet at the standard where they can address complaints of the workers regarding discrimination or harassment, including sexual harassment. And the government recently have ratified the Convention of ILO, International Labour Organization, for the protection of workers in the workplace against discrimination and harassment, which is seen as a sign of willingness to regulate this part, but still it is on the up to the business companies themselves. The solution is to find the courage and to use the mechanisms that are in place to fight this kind of phenomenon. First, I think they should have a say into their newsrooms and their companies, starting with having regular contracts, because one of the biggest problems that we have in Albania is the existence of informal economy. And when you are not signing a contract with your employer regarding your labor rights, it is very difficult then to protect yourself even in the court, because we've had cases when women have been fired, also men, without a valid reason, but they couldn't present their case to the court because they were not on formal contracts. So first, you should make sure that you sign a contract and you pay insurances, and you also follow the rules that are there by the Code of Labor. I think that women journalists, but also men, should organize themselves into syndicates or into groups of interest in order to guarantee their rights are respected. One of the problems we have in Albania with women journalists regarding labor rights in media is the fact that employers prefer young women who has not familiar obligations. I have had some reports from women journalists that say before they enter into a relationship in journalism, their employers would ask them, are you engaged or do you plan to marry? Because this is not a question that is being made to their men colleagues. And the third point is to be courageous and to follow the case through the institutions. So when you don't have support within your newsroom, you can present your case to the police, but you should make sure that all the proofs are there. So the advice the lawyers are giving journalists in these cases is to save all messages, pictures, text messages, online comments that might prove the harassment that has been done against them, and also to use other NGOs like Helsinki Committee, for example, or those organizations that are offering pro bono legal advice to go till the end, because they are setting the example. If we are not denouncing and if you are not reporting these episodes of harassment that are happening in the workplace, we are not guaranteeing a workplace that it is free of discrimination and harassment. In Albania, 60 up to 70% of reporters are women and girls. This means that we have a majority of women reporters, but when you go up, the level of direction decreases. We have fewer and very few women and girls who are in the position of editors, editors-in-chief, owners, programs author, or directors, for example, but also in terms of authorship, when they invite, for example, guests in their TV programs, there are only men or mostly men. We have now a younger generation of women and girls journalists, and I can say that they represent a fresh air in our environment, but they should be more solidarity, to show more solidarity around the values of being a journalist, rather than let's say being intimidated by the old mentality of dividing men and women in journalism as valuable or less valuable. We have example of citizen channels, for example, the new media who is composed only by young journalists. We have Reporters Albania, Community Reporters Albania, who has involved also marginalized groups into their newsrooms, and more and more women journalists are joining media companies, but there is still to do in terms of solidarity and in terms of being loud for their rights. Unfortunately, this is happening still, and the case that I mentioned you, it was recent, I mean in January 2023, but I see more resistance on the part of young journalists to be employed on formal basis. For example, you have fewer journalists that are accepting now to work without pay or without a formal contract, and from there you can say that the awareness of the young journalists, women and girls particularly, is higher than the old generation regarding the labor rights, but they need more persistence, and they need more organization in making these cases speak for their cause. I think first of all by making them public. If you have something that it is going wrong with your colleague or yourself, I think that you should fight within the newsroom, and you should ask for assistance and support and solidarity, and make your way through by involving also public support. Is based on the patriarchal norms, that it is rooted in our societies, because for so long time men have been in position of power and women have been left out in the family sphere, and the work sphere was kind of forbid for them. And now that things are changing, this is the resistance of old patriarchal norms that want to see men always in that position of power, and denying women their rights. But this is not anymore the case. We are in 2023, and the Constitution and the Charter of Human Rights give all human beings equal rights. Women's rights are human rights. We don't need only one day in the year to celebrate them. We should celebrate them every day. And also we should make our part and play our role in making sure that women and men are treated equally for the good of our societies and for the good of our children.